welcome to a brand new episode here on 1950's Farm. So how are we all doing today? Hopefully you're all doing good or having a good day, because this will obviously go out at 3 o'clock, so hopefully you're all having a good day or have had a good first half to the day, shall we say. So as you can see, we're out still in the big field that we're currently ploughing over. So you remember from the last episode, from the last two episodes really, we cut the grass here, and then we tedded it, rode it, baled it, and then we lifted it as well, and lifted the bales within the field. Excuse me. And I did a fabulous job, by the way. I don't know if you noticed, in actually doing the bales. I was quite proud of the job that I did, because I did watch that video back just to see whether I did do any mishaps in terms of bale stacking, because as everyone knows that watches my channel, I'm not very good at it. Yeah, so the fact that I sort of came away from watching that video thinking, I tell you what, James, to be fair, mate, you did a good job there, son. Left me quite pleased. So yeah, as I say, we did a good job, and I was happy with that. And then right at the end of that last video, we started ploughing this field. So I've done a little bit. I haven't done as much as what I was hoping to have got done off camera, just because I've been so busy with everything else. Sort of trying to get my house sorted out, because I'm trying to get a bungalow, which when you're a white middle-aged male, getting any property or any help getting any property is not good. I was talking to a lady in Citizens Advice Bureau, and when I was sort of asking if she could help me fill out the forms and everything, because obviously I can fill them out, but I didn't want to get it wrong. I wanted to get it right first time, because obviously the longer it takes for you to, and you're bound to fill something in not quite right. So I just thought, I'll ask. And she said to me, she goes, "Have you got a girlfriend?" So I said, "No." So she said, "You got a wife?" So I said, "No." So she said, "You need to find one." So I said, "Why?" She said, "Well, because then you can make her pregnant and you can get a house." And I said, "But I don't want to do that." I said, that's not a reason to be doing any of that stuff, And she said, "Well, you've got no chance otherwise." And I said, "What do you mean I've got no chance otherwise?" I said, "I need somewhere to live. I'm by myself, because of a few health issues that I've got. I ideally need a bungalow or a flat." I said, she goes, "Yeah, you're a white middle-aged male." She goes, "You've got no chance." And I just looked at her and I was just like, I said, "But that's discrimination." And she went, "Well, cry me a river then," because that's the way it is. And I was just I was absolutely mind blown. Anyway, left there, because she basically said, "Look, to be fair, the waiting room's full of people that I can actually help, and actually help to get somewhere." She said, "I'm going to fill out all of those forms. You'll get put onto the list." She said, "There's no problem with that." She said, "You'll never hear anything." She said, "You literally will never hear anything." And I came away from there and I was like, okay, fair enough. Anyway, maybe 2 days later, had to go back to where I'd been the day or a couple of days before, where the CAB is, which is in the council offices in Lincolnshire, and had to go back, and got there and spoke to a lady by pure chance. I overheard her talking to the receptionist, and she basically was talking with the receptionist to a person that was at the desk, who had an inquiry, and the receptionist couldn't answer it. And this lady came down, and I happened to hear them say that this lady was from the housing department. So I thought, right, I'm having you when you're finished. And yeah, I basically she finished and she went on. I sort of chased down the corridor. Excuse me, and she turned around. I went, yeah, and I explained, kind of who I was, situation, this, that, and everything else. And she said, I can't help you today. So I was like, oh, here we go. She said, but if you can come back tomorrow at 11 a.m., she said, then I'll sit down with you. We'll do all the forms, and she said, and then we'll go from there. And the lady was a miracle worker, because within, I don't know, 4 hours of helping me do the forms, I got a phone call saying, if you can just get a doctor's letter that basically says about your heart condition, says about what it is, and the fact that ideally a bungalow would be far more suitable than a house, we may have a bungalow for you. And I was like, wow. So yeah, I'd say I've been sort of sorting that out, and lots of other things going on in my life as well. So just haven't, as I say, just sort of got much of this done as what I was hoping. I was hoping I was going to be, sort of at least getting towards halfway across the field. And by the time that I brought you guys back, just because I didn't want to bore you with 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 ploughing, because although it is my favourite job, I mean, I would quite happily sit here for hours, doing this, chatting away and recording it. But you lovely people out there in YouTube land, you have lives and families, and you don't want to be listening to someone like me, for any more than about half an hour if you can help it. The other thing as well that's kind of happened this week, which has been, well, it happened actually towards the end of last week, but I got the confirmation letter today. So I told you on the Britons episode, I told you about my experience going to the opticians for the first time ever, and it turned out that I had old person's disease in cataracts, and quite bad cataracts too. And I got my well, they rang last Thursday, Friday, I can't remember now, but last Thursday or Friday they rang and they booked me in. So I'm going on November the 13th. And I hung up the phone, and I literally hung up the phone and then remembered, hang on, the new farming sim comes out November 12th. So I rang them back. And I said to the lady, I said, is there any chance that that could be a little bit later? And she was like, what, later in the day? And I said, no, later in the month. And she went, well, obviously I can make it later in the month, but the quicker you can get them done, the better it'll be for you, because you'll be able to see again properly. And I was like, yeah, I said, but a new computer game comes out the day before, I said, and I've got a YouTube channel that's based on that computer game. I said, I need to be able to record, I said, I want to be able to get videos out, the new game, and I want to be able to play the new game for myself as well. And she was like, she goes, well, you can do that anyway. And I said, yeah, I said, but obviously, I said, like, I won't be able to see, will I? So she said, why not? So I said, well, because obviously you're messing about with my eyes. I said, no doubt there's going to be some swelling, no doubt there's going to be, sort of temporary maybe vision loss, or at least very blurry and very cloudy for, she went, no. She goes, you should, well, it will be very bright for probably the first hour. But you will be able to see, but it would just be that, it would feel like you're in a room with a really bright light on. So I was like, right. She goes, but after about an hour, you should be able to see fine. So I said, oh, really? She's like, yeah. So I said, but I'm having both eyes done. And she went, no. She said, you're having one eye done. She said, we don't do both together. Do one eye at a time. So I said, oh, okay, fair enough. So she said, on the basis of that it's for a bloody computer game, those were her exact words. She went, no, I'm not cancelling your appointment and moving it back. She goes, you're just being silly. She said, therefore, she said, your appointment stands and you can come in and have it done. So I'm going in on November the 13th there. But yeah, so a lot of people out there are going, 13th, don't do it. I'm not really superstitious, to be fair. I think it hadn't even occurred to me until I told my mum. And then she's like, 13th, you can't do it. And I was like, why not? And she was like, it's the 13th. I went, so? And she went, well, yeah, but bad things happen. And I said, but I have to go through the 13th every month. I said, and to be fair, 1 month is no different to the next. I said, like, and I was sort of, as I say, I'm not really superstitious until people kind of go, I mean, as I said in that episode, actually, about the MRI scan, people told me how awful it was going to be, and I was going to hate it, and this was going to be this, that, and everything else. And yeah, I don't like them. I mean, it is very claustrophobic in there. It's very close to you, but it doesn't bother me. If God forbid I had to go in one tomorrow, then so be it. I'm not really that worried by it. So I think sometimes our fears and phobias and worries and superstitions and stuff are not necessarily our own. They're just what someone else has implanted within our brain, and suddenly we become sort of quite tuned into that when we didn't necessarily believe that in the first place. It's a bit like yesterday. I went for quite a long walk yesterday, and I'm paying the price yesterday and today because I'm really tired, but I really did need to get out. I just needed to get out of the house and just think about stuff, and I went for a really long walk, which I absolutely loved. Absolutely really enjoyed it. And it was really nice to get away from the computer, from the TVs, from the radios and stuff that are going, on in the house, sort of all day. And I got out, and I had this really long walk, but as I say, when I got back, I was all right for the first couple of hours, but by about sort of 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, I started to feel really tired. And to be fair, I had a really good night's sleep last night. I was up quite late last night doing the Life of a Potato episode. I must have recorded that episode about 10 times. I could not get it to go right, but there we go. In the end, we got somewhere, and hopefully everyone likes it. And enjoys the episode. But yeah, so I was up quite late last night, but yeah, it's it's tired me out. But as I say, I did really enjoy just that kind of time away. It was much needed. And I came home, and then last night, Sunday night, it was probably getting on for about 9:30, 10 o'clock when I actually did sit down and for about the 10th time re-record that episode and actually got it to something that A, I was happy with, and B, something nearer to what I was my expectations. So that was sort of really good in the end. But yeah, it's been a funny old few days and last sort of couple of weeks really with everything that's gone on. But yeah, so as I say, we're out in the field today, and we're doing a little bit of ploughing, as you can tell, and not going too bad. We've got the soybeans to plant in this field, and then the other black that you can see top left, that's going to go corn, and we're going to have some corn in there this year, and try and mix the rotations between corn and soybeans, which is what Harry did on the farm back in the 1950s. So as I say, I'm trying to pull the series now right into kind of what was going on. As I say, apart from the fact that I'm not going to give up the dairy just because it does offer me, what can I say, a variety of jobs, which is I think a lot more interesting for you guys to watch. Not that I don't think my videos are not interesting to watch, but it's just nice to see a wide selection of jobs and how they were done in the 1950s as opposed to how they're all done today, because I guess the practices are pretty much the same. It's just the equipment's got bigger. So as I say, it's no different, but I just sort of feel that having that little different variety and having different fields and stuff, I just think it makes it a little bit more enjoyable, to sort of watch grow, because as the years go by, we're obviously going to grow Harry's farm, but we're also going to the dairy will grow as well, and it would be nice to sort of see how they both develop. So yeah, but as I say, it's been a crazy old week. I was talking to someone in the village, and they were saying there's a lad that I used to go to school with, and he was saying, like, I'll watch your videos. He works on a farm. He works on the neighbouring farm to the farm that I worked on, at the first farm that I worked on, and he works on that farm, and he and apparently his bosses and the other workers, they watch my channel, and watch my videos, and then he was saying that they all really enjoy the chatty videos, and a lot of people have commented and said, yeah, really enjoy the chatty videos and what have you. But one thing he did say was, he goes, sometimes it would be nice if the chatty video was about farming and about your experiences and your stories and what have you else. It's really good that you kind of give a general sort of update of everything that's going on in your life, but you need to remember that it is a farming channel. I mean, it's fair enough. And so I started to sort of rack my brains when I was on my walk, and thought, all these things that would have happened to me when when I was working on the farm, especially when I started new. And it reminded me, sort of a story came to me of something that happened when I wasn't, when I'd been sort of left very unhappy. So it was on the first farm that I worked for, and as I've said before, and I'll quickly recap, and my old boss on the first farm also watches my YouTube videos, and this series in specifically. So I thought I would sort of tell this story on this video, just because obviously he'll be listening, and I can actually get across one or two little things that bothered me more then and not so much now, but now I can say in a more objective light, rather than being sort of quite raw emotions and different things. I can say it now more objectively, and hopefully in a way that he will understand my point of view. And I'm not going to say no names. They know who they are, obviously, and but yeah. So I and funnily enough, I think the main reason why this story came to my mind was because I decided on my really long walk yesterday to kind of walk all of or most of the fields that I'd farmed, on the first farm, and I thought, it'd be really nice just to go back, what's changed, is there anything different, etc., etc. Walk past the farm and what have you. And anyway, and as I was walking past the farm, this story, this event came to me, and I've said before that I really, and I want to get this, sort of on video now. I really, really enjoyed my time there, and I really appreciated the fact that when no other farm would give me an opportunity to gain some experience and to learn and to become a truck driver, which had always been my dream. um, you know, this, you know, this farm did. Yes, I had to put in a little bit of effort. I had to hire my own tractor and plough, which I've said before, and I went to the local John Deere dealership and I hired a John Deere 6920S, and I hired a 5 for a dad's well plough, and that was, for 2 weeks I went and ploughed, the land for them, and as I say, I really enjoyed it, and at the end of that, I got offered the job because I'd been to them several times and asked them, for a job, and they just sort of always said no. You've not got the experience. We're not looking for anyone. All the usual sort of claptrap that farms were giving me everywhere. That's not just them. Every farm was telling me the same thing. Yeah, we're not looking for anyone now. You haven't got enough experience. Quite a few farms, within a few weeks would have a new worker, or would have, because I knew all the local farms, because I enjoyed, sort of watching them and watching the tractors going up and down the fields and what have you. So, and of course they also did that to me, where they, I went to them on the Monday, and I remember this very clearly. I went to them on the Monday and said to them, you know, do you have a job? The harvest was coming up, and I was like, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to work long hours and blah blah blah. No, we don't need anyone this year. And then literally about 2-3 days later, um, a new chap arrived on the farm for harvest, and then after harvest they took him on full time. He was in his sort of mid-50s, and I was gutted, because I'd been told this, and bearing in mind that all of my family had worked at some point on that farm, and my nan was still working there. I think it was just like 2 days a week or whatever. It was very upsetting and very disappointing, and I sort of went back and said, well, you said, and they said, yeah, at the end of the day, we run a business, not, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, and then, as I say, a few years later, sitting on my checkout, at Tesco's, and this lady, lovely lady, can't remember her name for the life of me, but absolutely lovely lady. And we were sort of chatting and we were talking, and that they were farmers, and they were, sort of really small farmers, basically small holdings, smallholders that had sort of grown a little bit. They bought some new land and they put a few new sheds up, and they're still growing actually today. They're still developing. I, not very often now ride by there, but I do occasionally. If I'm out that way, I'll sort of detour a little bit just to have a look at what she's getting on with, and see what they're doing. And she said, like, hire a tractor and a plough, and just go around all the farms and say, look, I don't want paying, but for, if you provide the diesel, I'll provide the labour and the machinery. She said, I know it's going to cost you, she said, but it might get you the break that you need anyway. I went and hired the tractor, went and tried. The first farm I tried was the farm I ended up working on, And they said, "Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, you can come and do some ploughing for us. You've provided your own tractor. Yeah, we'll give you the diesel, no problem. We're not paying you, so fair enough." And the John Deere dealership that I had hired the tractor and the plough off had said, yes, you will have to pay for the hire of the machinery, of course, but we will heavily discount it because we quite admire what you're trying to do, and it shows good initiative, and so therefore, in our own little way, we would like to help a little bit, and so we'll discount it, and I'm still to this day waiting for the bill. And before you say, well, you should go in, when I gave the tractor back, I said to the guy, I said, are you going to send the invoice, or do you want me to pay me now? And he said, we'll send the invoice. Fair enough. So I waited a month, no invoice. So I went in probably about a month and a half after I'd given it back, and they said, oh yeah, don't worry, we know, we'll send it out, don't worry. And the months started to turn to years, and in the end I just sort of stopped asking for it, and I still go in there today because I tend to buy my models from there, so I still use the dealership today, so it's not a case of I avoid it now so I don't get a bill. And I do often say now to his daughter, who is now more sort of in the shop than than what I see him now. And I say to her, and I sort of say, you still haven't billed me for that tractor and plough yet. And she went, oh, don't worry, we'll get round to it. And I was like, yeah. I said, but the thing is, I said, I can afford to pay it at the moment. I said, I don't want you to send me the bill when I can't afford it. She went, oh, don't worry. She said, don't worry. She said, if you can't afford it, you just come in and tell us, and we'll wait. So she said, like, I said, but it was rather a long time ago. I said, it was 2006. We're nearly 20 years down the line. And she was like, don't worry, she said, we'll get round to it. So I said, okay. I said, all right, thank you. I said, I really appreciate it. She had not a problem. She said, you just keep coming and getting your models and a few other little bits, and like, sort of if I want a new cap or whatever, then I go there, or I used to go there for my boiler suits and my boots and different things. So like basically, if I needed any equipment for my job, I used to go there and get it. So I guess in a roundabout way, I've sort of given them the money, but I haven't, not really, because they never, as I say, they never did. But anyway, so I did that. I went to the farm, got on the farm. So at the farm, I'd been there about 5-6 years. I would say, I think I ended up, yeah, I think I was in my 6th year, and at the beginning of my 6th year, because I started on August the 13th, 2007, and so I was in my 6th year there, and it was early spring of, now let me get this right, yeah, that's right. So it was the spring of 2013. So I was sort of coming towards the end. I was sort of halfway through, if you like, my 5th year there, and as I say, August 13th was the start of my 6th year working on the farm full time, and it was the springtime, and I've told this story before, so I'm only going to do a brief recap on the story, but this leads on to what happened thereafter. So as you know, went to work one day, and no, I've got it wrong actually. So I was in my 6th year. It was in the autumn. It was in the autumn of that year. So we'd sort of done and finished all our drilling and what have you, and I got to work one day, and it was a really foggy, sort of misty, horrible day, a bit drizzly in the air, and the boss man said, oh, today, I've got a leak down at the cow field, or down where the cows and the sheep were kept. um, and you know, he said, I want you to go and fix the leak. So I said, okay. So I said, well, you know, do you know where the leak is? And he said, yeah, it's somewhere underneath the floor. So I said, all right. So he said, well, don't panic. He said, I've got all the equipment that you'll need. And I thought he meant, you know, that he got an excavator, you know, a mini excavator, and because all of the floor there, unless it was in the field, which I knew it wasn't, but if it had been in the field, it would have been no problem, because obviously it would have been grass, and you know, I'd have only needed to have got through sort of like the top layer, and then, you know, I would have been, you know, all right to sort of dig it. But it was through the concrete, so it came from the buildings across the sort of the drive that went into the paddocks, but all of that was concrete. And then from inside the gate, it was then concrete to the cow barn where the water troughs were, and the water troughs in there were for the cows on one side and the sheep on the other side. um, and it was the cow side that was leaking, um, somewhere underneath the concrete, because very little pressure was getting to the tap. So they're on a sort of ball cock sort of system, where obviously, you know, when it lowers, it opens the tap and the water fills in, and then as soon as it gets to the level and the ball cock's risen to the top, it then shuts the tap off. Well, it was near the bottom and hardly any water was, it was literally the lightest of trickles. So I gets there, and he goes off and takes the kids to school first thing in the morning, and I get over to his place because he lives where it was, and I get there, and there's no mini excavator. There's just a shovel and a pickaxe. Anyway, long story short, he comes at lunchtime, and I haven't got very far because, as you know, you all know, I've got a heart condition, and whilst I don't know about now as such, but back then I was able to do, you know, a little bit of physical, um, you know, but I did need a rest, and I did need to sort of recatch my breath and to let sort of everything settle down a bit. Um, and he came at lunchtime, and as I hadn't got very far, and basically he had a right go at me, you know, and I'm not going to repeat some of the things that he said. As I say, it's in an earlier episode, more likely than not it's in a Britain's episode, and he you know, he sort of had a, you know, sort of a real go, and was, in my opinion, a little bit personal, and I had to go back, and anyway, he basically sent me off. I think he sent me home, actually. Yeah, sort of relations were not great, and that was sort of the start of me questioning whether I wanted to be there or not. Because so in the sort of summer months, there was a couple of times when our combine driver was not there, and the combine was just stood in the yard. You know, no combining was done. And I said, well, I could drive that combine, you know, and we could keep going. Yes, I wouldn't be as quick and as efficient as our combine driver, but I would be able to. No, it's fine. So I said to them, you know, and the combine driver, John, he was coming up to retirement, and I said, when he retires, am I going to sort of take on his job role? And he went, definitely not. No, he said, we'll get someone in that we trust and that's a decent tractor driver. And again, I found that quite insulting, because, you know, I'd got a lot of awards and a lot of certificates for, you know, the quality of you know, my work and whatever else, and so I found that quite insulting. And then, as I say, this happened in the autumn, and then the following summer, a few other things had happened, but they were neither here or there. They were just sometimes I think I genuinely was at fault, for the things that happened. You know, I think I did take the mick sometimes, and then sort of other times it was sort of more on them than on me. But the following summer, he came to me and he said to me, he said, this year I don't want you on harvesting duties, which meant basically corn carting. He didn't want me on the tractor and trailer. So I said, oh right. I said, what am I going to do then? So he said, you can work in the grain store. So he said, you can load it. I said, yeah, but it'll be a bit dusty in there. He said, we'd have to wear a mask, wouldn't you? So I said, right. I said, okay. I said, but I said, I am going to need like some time out of there. I said, you know, I said, because it's going to be hot in there, and my heart doesn't function when it's hot. So at the moment in the UK, it's really cold, and my heart is at the moment performing to absolute perfection. But as soon as, you know, and I should be all right now until sort of May, June, July time of next year, and then, you know, sort of performance will go down considerably, and you know, will be the long hard struggle of summer until we get into autumn again. But and you know, everyone knows this, and you know, they knew it, and they knew it from all the previous years, and all the previous years it had been no problem to sit me on a tractor in air conditioning, to drive either the tractor and trailers, or, you know, be cultivating behind, or ploughing, or whatever, you know. So he said to me, he said, like, you know, you're going to be in there. So I was like, okay, fair enough. So I just thought, like, I'll do it for as long as I can. But if I physically can't do it, I can't do it, and I'm not going to, you know, jeopardize my health for him, basically, you know. So, you know, bearing in mind I was always the one that would stay behind late if the weather was changing, to try and get everything done on time for them. You know, if we were a bit behind, or, you know, whatever, but I was always the one that was like, yeah, I'll stay, I'll get it done, what have you. And this particular harvest, as I say, I was in the grain store. Anyway, it got to Thursday, and the guy who was on the tractor and trailer, I don't know whether he had an appointment or what had happened, but he couldn't make it, and they were a tractor trailer driver short, and you know, he came to me and and said, you know, we want you on the tractor and trailer. So I was, well, fair enough. So I goes on the tractor and trailer, and in the morning I blow it all out, you know, because the guy had been using my tractor, and he hadn't blown it out. The cab was an absolute hole. Honestly, I was really angry. You know, because I've always been taught, if you're using someone else's stuff, you look after it, you know. Well, that wasn't the case here, and my trailer was a complete and utter mess. You know, it sort of hadn't been looked after and greased, and, you know, washed and wiped down, and, you know, sort of all of that good stuff, you know, to keep it looking nice and to keep it looking smart. And of course, if you keep things looking nice and you keep them looking smart, what tends to happen is they last a lot longer, you know. But anyway, and about 5 o'clock came, or it was coming to 5 o'clock, and the boss man came to me and he said, oh, he's back tonight, so you can go back in the grain store. So I said, okay, fair enough. So I didn't like it in there, but I thought, you know, you're gonna have to suck it up, and, you know, whatever, and just get on with it. And 5 o'clock came, went home from a tea. The other guy jumped on the combine, on the tractor and trailer, and away it goes. Anyway, I gets back at 6, because I had an hour for my tea. I only lived 2 minutes down the road, so it was you know, it was not a push. You know, it was a comfortable, you know, sort of tea break, which I really appreciated, to go home and get, you know, proper meal and what have you, and also to get a bloody, you know, shower and stuff, you know, as well, because I'd say I was blooming filthy. And I get back, and I'm in the grain store, and boss man comes in and he starts shouting at me, like, but I couldn't hear him over the machinery, so I turned it all off, and I said, you're gonna have to repeat all that. I said, because I didn't hear a word of that. and he has a go at me. And then the guy who took over from the tractor from me, he comes in and he has a go at me as well. So I said to him, I said, well, hang on a minute. I said, what you're telling me is that you've nearly had an accident, and even though I was at home having my tea, that's my fault. And he went, yes, because it was on your tractor. I said, just one slight little detail. I said, you were driving, I wasn't. So he said, yes, I know. He said, I've indicated that I'm going into a field. So I said, yeah, well done. So he said, and then the car's overtaken me as I'm turning in. So I said, and how's that my fault exactly? So he said, well, your trailer, so we used to line the bottoms with Hessian sacks because we used to tip in onto elevators, and the elevators would then fill the grain stores. It was a really old-fashioned way of doing it in a modern world, but that was what they did, and that was how they did it. And what had happened was, I think, when he'd unloaded it, he accidentally hit the tailboard spool valve, that operates the hydraulic. I can't think of the bloody name of it. Inside the cab, the little levers, I think and so what had happened was it'd come up slightly, but because I had it locked because there were clamps on the side of the trailer that you could lock it down on. And I think what had happened was it hit the clamps, but it'd been just enough gap for the Hessian sack to slide out and come and sort of hang down the back. And I think what had happened was it had covered the indicator, the light block and the indicator. And of course, he not realised and turned, and as I say, here they were having, sort of a go at me. Anyway, John, who was driving the combine, he came back from his tea back just a little bit after me, about 10-15 minutes after me, but he did live a bit further away. And he's come into the shed and gone, what's all this shouting? And so I explained, and then they explained, and they cut me off and told me to be quiet, and then they told the story, and John just looked at Ray and said, well, you were driving it, he said, so therefore it's your fault. He said, at the end of the day, he said, if that car had hit you, he said, they wouldn't now be questioning James, they would be questioning you on why you didn't walk around your vehicle to make sure that your vehicle was in a fit, a fit state to drive. Anyway, weekend comes, and on the Friday, Anthony says to me, he says, oh, we're all having a day off tomorrow. So I said, right. So he said, over the weekend, he said, like the whole weekend, he said, Saturday and Sunday, we're having 2 days off. So thank you to everyone for all the hard work you've put in. It talks of being scorching hot now for, the next sort of few weeks. So, we can afford to have 2 days off and really appreciate it, fair enough. So on the Saturday, day off, I goes and picks my girlfriend up, sort of about 9 o'clock in the morning. So we thought, oh, we'll have the day out, we'll go to the seaside, we'll do, whatever sort of thing, we'll have the day out because, as I've said before, she didn't like the fact that I worked long hours, but she accepted the fact because I worked on a farm, and so therefore, she was like, well, I accept, that you work long hours and long days and, many months of the year, but when you do have time off, I want you to sort of kind of agree that we should go out, together as a couple and have a, a day out sort of thing, and, which is, fair enough sort of thing. So I picked her up, take her out. Anyway, we go back to my mum and dad's house, where I was living at the time. So I pick her up and we go back to mum and dad's house, and mum and dad's house is between the farm and the fields, well, some of the fields, not all of the fields. And anyway, we're in the house. So I was in the living room actually. I was sort of putting my nice trainers on and what have you. Because as I say, we were going to the seaside. We'd sort of packed a little picnic and different things and sun cream and everything else. And we was sort of going to go down there because it was cool on the coast, and obviously I needed to be relatively cool, and so that while we was going. Anyway, just as I'm sort of coming out of the drive, our combine goes past over the sort of, because we used to live on a crossroads. The combine goes by, both tractors and trailers go by, and I'm thinking, sort of my girlfriend looks at me, she says, "Isn't that your lot?" And I went, "Yeah." So I said, "We'll just sit here 10 minutes." She's like, "Why?" I said, "Well, I'm going to go down now. I'm going to see where they go." So I said, "Because it could be they're helping someone out." Anyway, we left it a few minutes, gone down there. They're in one of our fields and they're combining. I go back. On my tractor is, is obviously the tractor and trailers, and then they also had someone in doing some cultivating. So I see the boss's truck and I get out and I goes over to him and I said to him, I said, "I thought you was having 2 days off." He went, "Yeah, I changed my mind." So I said to him, I said, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" He said, "Well, we don't really need you." So I said to him, I said, "All right." I said, "Oh," I said, "All right, fair enough." So I got back in the car and I went off and we went out for the day. And it put me in a bit of a bad mood all day because obviously, I'm now not earning money and I could have been earning, sort of good money sort of thing. Anyway, gets to work Monday. "Oh, I'm sorry about the misunderstanding over the weekend." I said, "Don't even worry about it." I said, "Don't even mention it, no problem." So 4 o'clock came that evening. I went home. So I get a phone call, "Where are you?" So I said, "Oh, I've gone home." So he said, "Yeah," he said, "but we're working." So I said, "Well, good for you." So he said, "Yeah, yeah." He said, "But," he said, "You're supposed to be at work." I said, "Well, no." I said, "I'm contracted 7 till 4. I said, "But we have a sort of kind of understanding that, obviously in the summer months, I work longer hours and, what have you, blah, blah, blah." I said, "But I'm actually contracted 7 till 4. So I said, "Therefore I went home at 4 o'clock." So he said, "Yeah, but we're busy." So I said, "Well, you coped on Saturday and you coped on Sunday." I said, "I'm sure you'll manage for a few hours tonight." So anyway, Tuesday morning I get to work and he's sort of having a bit of a go at me and what have you. And I just said, "Oh, whatever." I said, "Whatever." I said, "You want to be a complete arsehole?" I said, "I will be a complete arsehole." So Tuesday night, 4 o'clock, poof, getting in my car. He's, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, you're not going home tonight." I said, "See you." I said, "See you in the morning." So reversed out, went home. Wednesday morning, get to work, and he says, "Right," he says, "I'm not happy about this." He said, "And if you do it tonight," he said, "then you're going to lose your job." So I said to him, I said, I said, "Okay, fair enough." So 4 o'clock Wednesday night came, went home, and anyway, he sort of rang me and said, "Well, you needn't bother coming in the morning." So I said, "Yeah, no problem." I said, like, I'll enjoy the day off. I said, "Thanks very much." So anyway, I didn't go in on the Thursday. Friday morning, both cart drivers didn't turn up, and he rings me up and he says, "We need a cart driver." He said, "And I need someone that knows what they're doing." So I said, "Oh, right." I said, "What, you ring me to recommend someone?" So he said, "No, I'm ringing you because I want you to come in." So I said, "Oh, no." I said, "You sacked me." So he said, "Yeah, well, I'm unsacking you." So I said, "Well, it don't work like that, does it?" So he said, "Look," he said, "I'm unsacking you. Just get your butt down here. We're combining." So I said to him, I said, "All right." I said, "But," I said, "we'll do it under my terms, though." I said, "I'm working till 4 and I don't work weekends no more." And he said, "What do you mean you don't work weekends no more?" I said, "Yeah, I don't work weekends no more." And in the end, eventually it got resolved because he came to, because I kept going home at 4 o'clock. And eventually in the morning, him and his dad took me into the office and they sat me down and they said, "Right," they said, "this needs sorting. Either you're going to work here or you're not, but it needs sorting." So I said, "Well," I said, "quite frankly," I said, "I haven't done nothing wrong." I said, "I was told that we were having the weekend off." I said, "Because of all the hard work, it was a bit of a thank you." I said, "And then 2 retired pensioners come in," I said, "and John," I said, "to do the combining when you've told me that, no one's coming in." And then I get, "Oh yeah, I changed my mind, but we didn't need you." So I said, "If you don't need me, you don't need me." I said, "That's fair enough." I said, "What you need to remember is," I said, "I've been working here now, sort of 6.5 years. I said, I've now got the experience that I need to go anywhere and get a job. I said, I don't need you no more as much as what you need me. I said, so therefore, if you want me to go back to working my normal hours and, doing everything that I used to do, I said, you're going to pay me for the weekend that I didn't get to work because you didn't tell me. I said, and not only that, I said, as a little bit of a sorry, and we're glad you're back, I said, you're going to pay me an extra week with overtime pay. I said, otherwise, I'm not coming back. And I said, the choice is yours. I said, I'm putting the ball in your court, not the other way around. I said, the choice is yours. It is entirely up to you what you do. And I walked out of that office and I went into the workshop and I got on with my work. And they came out probably, I don't know, about an hour later with an envelope. And they said, like, that's, we've paid you what you wanted. So I said, okay, fair enough. He said, but from now on, he said, you work your normal hours again. I said, absolutely no problem. I said, absolutely no trouble at all. And so we went back to sort of being sort of okay again. But the thing was, it stuck with me. How I felt that weekend, the time with the leak and how I was made to feel, because I've always felt pretty rubbish about my heart condition anyway, because it stops me from doing so much in life that I want to do, from the simple things of picking up my son and swinging him around and running in the park and playing football with him, to work and stuff. I can't work now because of it. And I love farming sim and I love doing YouTube videos, but I hate the fact that I can't go out to work on a farm on my tractor ploughing and doing all of the jobs that I was doing. And as I say, that time stuck with me. And what I did was, I think it was that autumn. It was that autumn. So late August, probably over in and around the bank holiday weekend, I was ploughing. And I've told the story, there was a red truck on the end of the field and it had been watching me for ages, and the guy comes over, can I have a ride? I'm, farm manager at the farm that he was farm manager at, and I wondered if we could have a chat, and I had a chat and I listened to what he had to say. And then he told me what I'd get paid. He told me the jobs that I would be doing, bearing in mind that I'd already been told by the farm I was working on that when the main tractor driver, John, retired, I was going to be working in the garden, and they were going to have contractors come in to do all the farming because it was cheaper and easier than me doing it. And because I'd been told all that, because of the the harvesting debacle that had happened, and the animal leak, I spoke to my girlfriend about it, and I said, look, I'm almost going to double my weekly wage, and that's just a flat week. I said, like, with the overtime and everything that I can work on there. They were a farm that were probably 4, maybe 5 times bigger than what I was working on. It was a no-brainer for me. And so that was why I went over. But yeah, so that was as I say, it was a story or memory that came back yesterday when I was walking by some of the fields. And yeah, anyway, I'm going to sign off for this video because this video has gone on way longer than what I was expecting it to go on for. So thanks ever so much for listening. If you haven't done already, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Share the video as many times as you can in as many places as you can. I would really appreciate that. And all that's left for me to say is I've really enjoyed chatting with you today on today's episode, and I hope you'll join me for another episode tomorrow. Bye for now.